Welcome to Subramani. For many advisors, this is a time when they do a portfolio review, which means you could be doing to a calendar year, or you could be doing in the month of, say, May, when you're reviewing the March portfolio. So, what are the things that you should be talking to the client about the what has happened in the past 1 year? So fairly obvious. The first thing that everybody wants to know is how have they done, right? So if a client has, say, 3 crores in his portfolio and he sees that the market has gone up by 18%, does he expect to see 3.54 in his portfolio? If the answer is yes, then obviously something is wrong with the expectations, because a portfolio may consist of Indian equity, large cap, mid cap, maybe some Japanese equity, maybe some US equity. You put into a global fund, you put into a world energy fund, you put into a world gold, world agriculture, right, commodity fund. Now there is a metal fund. So if you put into all these things, then the question is overall weighted return may not match also, because you may be having a big portion, maybe 20% or 15% of their money in liquid or ultra short bond funds, savings bank accounts. So when you take all that into account, it can't be 18%, it would be something lesser. So making sure that the client understands that it is the overall portfolio return that he is looking at, and not just the equity return. The equity return should have beaten the index or should be somewhere around the index. That is possible, but to expect the whole portfolio to get you 18% return is impossible. So client should understand what he is looking at, because there are some men and women who may not be able to appreciate the return from the market and return from the portfolio. There is a distinction. Also, I suggest that you do a portfolio review with the family if the children are above 13-14 years of age, to at least let them know what is the process. Ideally, the review should be done in the office of the IFA or the MFD, because it gives them uninterrupted attention and time. What happens if you are doing the review at the client's house, because you want to involve the whole family, is there will be a lot of disturbances. Somebody could be ringing the bell, the phone could be ringing, any of those things could be happening. In your own office, there is likely to be much less disturbance. You could tell them, just shut down everything, give us at least half an hour, and after half an hour you could be still talking about it, but doing it in your office is better, because the client gets accustomed to you and your office and to your office staff, right, to everything, rather than doing it at the client's place. Nothing really wrong with it, doing at the client's place also, but I think this is a preferred option. Another thing is, when the client looks at the return, you look at the index or the growth which that family needs, which means the family has to give you one very important piece of information: what is the inflation impacting them, and that they know only when they write down their expenses. So if they have written down their expenses and their written down expenses comes to, let's say, 11% inflation as it impacts that family, then their overall portfolio growth should be happening at 12%. Now, if this is very difficult, you need to know that they need to be saving more, which can get invested more, right? So not every portfolio will do a return greater than the family's inflation. Sometimes it's very difficult. So then what you do is you just jump up and keep pumping up the amount of investment. So if they are saving 30% of their income, try to make it 40%, try to make it 42%, try to make it 45%, because every percent above that is going to be far more difficult, unless the income has expanded substantially. For somebody earning 5 lakhs a month and spending 1 lakh, they are spending 20%. So trying to increase that to 22% is possible. But somebody earning 50,000 and spending 45,000, for them to go beyond 45,000, forget as a percentage, is almost impossible. because living on 45,000, they must be living a tight life, paying for school fees, paying for college fees or education, and EMI, housing, car, petrol, and all that. Then it must be very difficult. So see what percentage jump can happen, because if the growth in the portfolio is not happening greater than inflation, then the amount has to be jacked up, right? So both these things are very important. And then you know where then also look at are they headed towards in the right direction towards their short-term goals. Don't worry too much about their long-term goals, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year goals. Don't worry as long as the direction is right, because you do not know how much quantity you really need. You have told a client that he requires $1 million US for retirement. You have no clue today, and you need it maybe after 10 years. You have no clue today where are you headed towards that, as long as it's a positive number. But the immediate goals, which is in the next 3 years, 5 years, that you have to have a better sense of direction, because if your goal is 3 years away, and equities are doing well, like current situation when the equities are doing well, it's a great and a fantastic time to remove a big chunk and put it into ultra short bond fund, because you need it after 3 years, you need it in 2025. So some reallocation of assets might happen, and reallocation of assets may also happen that yes, I know there is no immediate need, I know you're sitting on a lot of cash, but still let us take some more money out of the equities and keep it in cash. Not because you want to do anything with the cash, but more as a tactical asset allocation, saying when there is an opportunity, maybe I'll buy. But or the other thing that could be done is use that money to repay some housing loan, car loan, whatever is there. But if the client is about to buy a new car, then better to keep that in cash rather than borrow from the bank. For a car loan may not make sense in this market when the equity is high. So it's a great time to be removing more money from equity. Let's say you want to buy a car worth 20 lakhs. Removing 12 lakhs or 15 lakhs from equity and borrowing 5 lakhs may make more sense instead of removing 5 lakhs from equity and borrowing 15 lakhs. Yes, you have the capacity to repay, you have the capacity to pay interest, all that is true. But what happens if the market falls? So therefore, now if the client has 5 crores and is taking a 20 lakh loan to buy a car, by all means that's fine, because it doesn't really matter whether he removes 20 lakhs from a 5 crore portfolio or does not remove. But it always feels good to say, oh, remember last time when the market was booming, I removed some money from the equity markets and bought a car. So it feels good also. So it could be a diamond jewelry, but I'm just saying removing some money from equity during good performance times is a sensible thing to do. So reallocation of some assets, it's a good time to checking out the progress to the goal. This is also a good time to be reviewing your own view about what the markets will do, whether how the portfolio looks like and how you want to make changes. I mean, you could be removing some equity money and putting it into a fund which has got, say, 70% debt and 30% equity, simply saying, let's reallocate, let's put some money into a pension plan which you can't touch for maybe another 10, 12 years of what is left. But then you know that you don't want to touch it also, and you want more equity. Or a good time to be removing money from an index fund and putting it into a gilt fund, saying, yes, I know I may take some hit, but let me do an SGP into a gilt fund. I don't know why people don't appreciate that, but then sorry, I am digressing. So then you have your point of view as to what you think should be done to the portfolio, then deciding how much to overweight some parts of the portfolio, which is more like your view, saying I think the US market is less overpriced compared to the Indian market, so let's put some more money in the US. Or let's say Japanese market has not done well, so let's allocate some more money to Japan. Or saying let's buy some more gold, deciding which form of gold, should I buy SGB or ETF, or should I put into a multi-asset fund, because some element of gold is there also. So taking these kind of decisions, how much of overweighting, underweighting you want to do. Oh, gold has not done well, so therefore let me buy more. Oh, gold is doing well, let me ride the bandwagon. Whatever asset allocation, something which you have to make some changes, some tactical, some far more strategic, right? So those kind of changes that you need to make That's also nice time to be talking about any new ideas on a 5 crore portfolio. Putting say 50,000 per month over 3 years in cryptocurrency may not be a bad idea. Personally, I have not put, but I know many people who are likely to put, to some many people who have put, right? All kinds of things. Now, if you finish all your loans, if your children are settled, if you have enough money for your retirement, so having fun with 5,000 rupees a month or 50,000 rupees a month, whatever is your budget, is not too bad an idea. So that's a good time to be talking about that. One very important thing to ask is what has changed in the client's life. Has he inherited something? Has somebody died and given him something? Or is it that he's going to incur the expense of some cousin's kid and therefore he needs more money for that? Is a parent needing financial attention? Is a child needing financial attention? Depending on the age of the client, a 55-year-old client may want to be supporting his or her children in some business venture. So asking, is there any such plan? So this is a very important thing. In fact, if there's a marriage or a divorce or a birth of a child, you may want to redo the will, right? So this is what change has happened is perhaps the first question, which is more important than even performance. But yes, talking about that is essential, and that happens. And then largely, I think one very important thing which not many advisors pay attention to is asking for the credit report, or the CIBIL report as we call it, because CIBIL is the most dominant player. Getting the client's CIBIL report is very useful, because many clients forget that they have got loans to be repaid. Or then you look at the report and say, oh God, this credit card I surrendered long ago, how is it still showing 1,800 rupees payable? It could be something which you had not paid, or something which you may have thrown away the card, but you may have incurred some annual charges. As long as the amount is 1,800 or 1,500, go dispute it, but pay it off, because if you don't pay it, the interest compounds. It's a small amount, and suddenly the figure you see is 1 lakh and not 1,800. This has happened because you've ignored it for 4-5 years. So just go and please look at your CIBIL report on a regular basis, and that I think should become a very important part of every financial review. Not enough importance is given to that, given the fact that we are a country where financial institutions don't behave very well, and you may not have you don't even know what to do with a bad credit score. You have to just go back to CIBIL and say, look, this is falsely reported, this is not there, this loan I never took, this was just a sanction, I never took the loan. So have a look at that. Have a look at the client's income tax, right? Talk to the client's accountant if needed, or at least get a copy. So if the client has got too much of interest income, it might be good time to remove money from the bank deposit and put it into an ultra short bond fund, simply because you're at least postponing the tax. Bringing the tax angle either with an expert or yourself learning enough about investment and taxation could be very useful. Some clubbing provision may be hitting, some dividend. Today an AIS accepts, calculates all that and gives it to you, so it's fine. You know that you're not missing anything. So go through the TDS, 26AS, go through all the statements, and you will realize that there are some assets which you have no clue of, or the NSGL statement, and say, oh my God, why is this 32,000 lying in this fund? Why is this 26,000 lying in this fund? So you may want to just clear all that. So, so the cleaning up process, all this put together is your annual review. I've tried to make it very comprehensive, so it's about 5-6 minutes. So please bear with me, and thanks a lot.